Welcome to another Electoral Road Show with me, Chris Steyn, and Analyst Supremo Wayne Sussman. Welcome back, Wayne.
Thank you. Great to be speaking to you again, Chris.
Let us go to last night's results.
We had one by-election yesterday. There were supposed to be two, but the one in KwaZulu-Natal was not proclaimed. Last night was the final round of Western Cape by-elections for the period after the 2021 local government elections and before the 2026 local government elections. The final by-election in the Western Cape province, indeed a battleground province, a province where the DA did very, very well in 2021 and 2024. One of the things we've been seeing, Chris, is the Patriotic Alliance winning wards off the DA, winning wards off the ANC, and part of this has been generating an incredible turnout enthusiasm. Was this going to play out in the final round of by-elections? This by-election was a Patriotic Alliance seat next to Malmesbury in the area of Wesbank or Westbank in the Swartland area on the west coast. Now, Swartland was the historic part of the historic blue wall of the DA. This used to be the safest DA municipality in the country. And in 2024, the Patriotic Alliance burst through that wall by winning the seat off the DA. And this was a by-election was here because the Patriotic Alliance council resigned. It was the PA versus the DA versus the ANC. And Chris, the PA didn't just hold the seat, they increased their majority and have further entrenched themselves in the area of Malmesbury, in the area of Swartland, winning over half of the vote, winning 53% of the vote last night, up from 40% of the vote. The DA did increase slightly from 39% to 42%, the ANC declining, but this is a very important win for the PA because the by-election data shows, and we've discussed this week in, week out, across the province, and sadly there's very little data of the city of Cape Town, but in the rural towns of the Western Cape, the PA march on and march upwards, weakening the DA, weakening the ANC, and a core thing in this by-election was turnout. The turnout in this by-election was 10 percentage points higher than what we saw in the 2024 by-election. The turnout in this by-election was essentially the exact same as what we saw in the national election in 2024. Gayton, MacKenzie, and the Patriotic Alliance are enthusing voters. They're making them excited about the PA, and they are turning them out. And this is a significant result in the last round of by-elections in the Western Cape, Chris.
Thank you, Wayne. While we are in the Western Cape, Good and Rise Mzansi have joined forces behind mayoral hopeful Brett Herron.
Yes, and just to take one step back, one of the early announcements a few months ago was this idea of a new collective called the Unite for Change, or UFC. It also stands for Ultimate Fighting Competition or Combat, but these are lovers, not fighters. And this was Rise Mzansi, Build One South Africa, and Good. But then Mmusi Maimane and the others didn't find common ground, and we saw that Unite for Change was not happening. But then a few weeks later, Good and Rise Mzansi agreed to run on a ticket. And the first announcement was the political analyst, person linked to Rivonia Circle, Lukono Mguni, being announced as the Johannesburg mayoral candidate for Rise Mzansi, and Good being there to support him and endorse him. And when one looks across the 8 metropolitan areas, the metropolitan area where Rise Mzansi did the best in 2024 was Johannesburg, so Lukono Mguni is their candidate. But in Cape Town, of all the metropolitan areas, it was where Good did the best, although it was well down on what they did in 2019. is their key municipality. Patricia de Lille has been the long time, has often been the person most associated, but her number two for many years is Brett Herron, the former member of the mayoral committee. He's part of the provincial legislature, and he's a former member of parliament. He's the Secretary General of Good. So he was announced there, and Lukhona Mnguni and Rise Mzansi were there to support him. I want to just remind listeners and viewers of one thing, that even though, of course, stronger together is better, this is not really shifting the dial that much, because Rise Mzansi, if you remember correctly, they have one seat in the provincial legislature. If you had to add that Good's votes, it wouldn't have amounted to a second seat. And Rise Mzansi really underperformed in Cape Town, but it's the media conference, the event, that people like parties generally like parties coming together. It can have a negative, but I think the supporters of Good and Rise Mzansi will say we have a lot in common. We see the world the same way. We see solutions to the city the same way. And Brett Herron will be the mayoral candidate. And now the parties will have to determine the lists. But this is a shot in the arm for Good, whether they can keep this momentum with competing against the Democratic Alliance, which is currently the dominant party in Cape Town, and the rising tide of the Patriotic Alliance, which has also affected Good, by the way, remains to be seen. Even though Brett Herron's been announced as the mayoral candidate and he'll be good in the debates, I think the Democratic Alliance and the ANC will be much more concerned about the PA than Good with Rise Mzansi in Cape Town.
Healthcare matters, but what matters most?
Having cover for the people who keep this business going.
Bonitas is there for you when it counts. Bonitas, medical aid for South Africa. Visit bonitas.co.za and find your plan.
Over to your part of the world, Wayne, where the African National Congress has elevated Dada Morero to intervention convener for the province's troubled municipalities.
Yeah, so this is happening at the same time where he was announced that he didn't make the shortlist for Johannesburg mayoral candidates. And this was always going to be a core decision for the ANC. Does Dada Morero run for another term? We know that he lost the regional election battle to Loyisa Masuku, and she holds the position of deputy mayor, and she tabled the budget recently. So he's lost that battle. And I think the ANC are finding a soft landing for him. Where people are critical of him as a mayor, he still has a lot of support in Johannesburg and in the province. And I think this is more about keeping the peace and keeping the factions glued together rather than someone who is going to be able to turn around. Again, I give credit to the ANC for acknowledging there is a crisis in local government in Gauteng. But I think the more significant thing, Chris, is that he didn't make the shortlist. Other names in that shortlist were the Reverend Frank Shikani, was Jabu Moleketi, the former deputy minister and business person, and Loyisa Masuku. I think these are the three most likely people. And this is a significant decision for the ANC. But what we know is it's definitely not going to be Dada Morero running for another term.
Over to the Eastern Cape, Wayne, where the late President Nelson Mandela's grandson, Mandla, hopes to become a mayor.
Mandla Mandela has, of course, been a member of parliament. He's a traditional leader, but he's also an activist. He has announced that he has an interest in being the mayor of King Sabata Dalindyebo. Now, why is this significant? Of all the Eastern Cape has two metropolitan municipalities, Nelson Mandela Bay and Buffalo City. The next province with the most amount of residents and people is King Sabata Dalindyebo, and this is the Umtata area, the former homeland. And this is a key municipality for the ANC. It's also been plagued by various troubles and maladministration. And I think it will be a shot in the arm for the ANC to have Mandla to be their mayoral candidate. The key is, will he remain focused on local issues? The politics of refuse collection, lights staying on, and potholes is not as interesting as some of the issues which might be discussed on social media or in Parliament. So that remains to be seen. But I think that is, if I have to think of it from the ANC's perspective, encouraging that he is putting his hand up there.
Meanwhile, another mayor, Buffalo City's Princess Faku, is under fire for taking officials on overseas trips to China and Germany while the municipality is struggling financially.
Yeah. So we are now in the election period, and politicians and mayors should always be careful with decisions they make and how the public might react. To take a large junket, a large delegation on an international trip just before the election, where the municipalities' coffers are under strain, where there's significant challenges at home, I think is not the wisest of political moves. Let me also say this, that I'm not saying that officials shouldn't go on overseas trips. It's important to learn skills, to network, to see what other countries do well, to see what we can do better. But when you take large delegations, I think it leaves a very bad taste in the voters' mouths. And this is, by the way, possibly a nice segue, because next week we have 2 Buffalo City by-elections, which will be the last by-elections in the Eastern Cape before the local government election, and the last by-election in a metropolitan area before the next local government election. It'll be interesting to see whether this issue, this debacle, hurts the ANC, because both of the seats are ANC seats.
Thank you. That was Wayne Sussman on the Electoral Road Show with me, Chris Steyn. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Start your day a step ahead. Biz News Insider. It delivers the business stories that matter every morning straight to your inbox, sharp, fast, and free. Subscribe now. In uncertain times, good information is priceless. The Biz News Conference is heading back to the Drakensberg. Join me, Alec Hogg, from the 11th to the 14th of August for BNC 9, Champagne Sports Resort, where it all began, and where our community gathers for honest conversations, smart investing insights, and direct access to some of South Africa's sharpest minds. Come and rub shoulders with the best we've got. 28 keynote speakers, 3 days. Seats are available now. Book your seat by clicking the link in the description.